This is about API keys and a bit of cryptography. So this is a blog post that I will be releasing, and this video will accompany that. So a recent kind of work project had me looking at utilizing cryptography to basically secure an API endpoint. So I've written about crypto, but not in the great way. I've talked about cryptocurrency and blockchain, which I kind of now cringe about. But we live and we learn. So basically, like I've just stated, the problem space that we're trying to solve is authenticating API endpoints. I mean, if you want to make sure the person using the API is who they are, and also that they have access to that particular endpoint. So essentially, we're going to do this in two stages, as you can see in the diagram. We're going to be creating the secret, and we can do that with a web platform, and I'll show you that. We're going to use that secret to access an API endpoint, and then we'll get a token that gets returned from that, and that token is going to be basically a JWT, and the JWT is going to be used for subsequent requests to other endpoints. That's kind of like the main thing that we'll be using to determine who the user is. So two stages: you got your secret, and from the secret you get your token. With the token, you use that to authenticate the other endpoints. So let's jump straight into the code. Cool. So here's the little web interface here. So please excuse the kind of the white mode. But essentially, we've got a button here. It's going to create that secret. So we'll click the button, and we'll generate that secret. We'll just put a name and an ID just to help with identification. And you can see we have a secret here, which is only if I'm not in the way. I'll just get myself out of the way. You'll see that here's a secret here. And then if I were to refresh it, you only see it once. So refresh the page, we don't have that secret anymore, so just to generate another one. You can see I've generated another one. Here's get myself out of the way again. Here's that particular secret. And you can see what's saved here is a hash of that secret. So we actually use password derivation. So we use a library called argon2. It does a password derivation on the particular secret, and it saves it as a hash here, which imagine it's stored in the database. So anyone who has access to the database can't ever get that secret. That secret is going to be essentially a secret that is only viewed once to the particular user, unless it gets leaked or anything like that. But you're hoping that this will be stored in a secure location. And you can see the code in front of it prepends the particular parameters for that password derivation. So essentially, you want to use enough resources to make this difficult to brute force attack. Because essentially, the way you're going to check the secret is that the user will supply the secret, and you run it through the your hashing algorithm or your password derivation, and just making sure that the hash matches what's on the database. Because it's a one-way function. So you're kind of hoping that you wouldn't be able to brute force that. So basically what password derivation does is it applies a hash to your secret as well as salting it. So every particular salt will be unique. And I believe it's stored somewhere in here. So every salt is going to be unique. And when you do the password derivation, it doesn't happen instantaneously. It takes a particular time because it's computationally expensive. And it's defined by these parameters here. If the parameters are too expensive, then your server could time out or you could have a problem with your server. So you have to balance the two. So what I'll do now is I'll jump into the terminal and I'll show you the secret in action. Okay, so I'm currently in the terminal, and you can see I'm using an application called HTTPI or HTTP. I don't know how to pronounce it. It's basically a CLI tool that allows me to make post requests similar to curl, but I find it a bit more human readable. So you can see here that we're doing a post request to this particular endpoint, and it's going to be our authentication endpoint that takes the secret, and we essentially make a form submission. It should really be a kind of a JSON submission, but I've just set up the project incorrectly. And what we should do is, if this is a valid secret, we'll get a token that's returned back in the form of a JWT. And you can see that we have received a JWT, and just for good measure, I'll show you what happens when we kind of send the wrong string. You can see we get an error, 401 error, which basically means that we're unauthorized. The application can't figure out who we are, so we get a 401. Great, so the next part is we're going to be sending the token across the wire. So instead of doing a post request, the token will now be put into the header of every single request. So you can see I've now provided that JWT that was returned to us in the form of the header. So if I were to enter this through, you see I get the ID and the name, which if you recall from the previous when we created the secret, that's kind of what was generated. And this JWT basically contains that information. You see the ID and the name is stored in the JWT. It doesn't actually do any lookups into the database, which is less computationally expensive than decoding the secret. So essentially how it works is you have that long-lived secret that the client stores, and they make their request to get the token. The token is what they use for all the other requests, and that token eventually expires, so you can repeat that process again. Great, so I hope you found this useful. Like I said, if you just go to the blog post, it has it explained in much better detail, the step-by-steps. Also, the link to the repository, I believe, is all the way down here. Oh, not down there, but somewhere there's going to be a link to the repository, so if you want to have a play around with yourself, you just have to run the server on your system, but it should be fairly simple to do. And I hope you found this useful. If you have any tips for me or any kind of feedback, please let me know, and hopefully I'll be able to produce more content like this that is interesting and helps you out. Thank you.